Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Language Facilitation Q&A. We've got a great episode together for you today. I'm going to be talking a lot about using my workbook today, my 11-week language facilitation journey to speech. I'm going to be talking about how to use that workbook, how to get started with your plan, not just for one language, but for two. A lot of the people who've been, communicating with me since they got the workbook are letting me know that they're kind of struggling with getting started with it. So I'm going to be helping you work with that tool today. And I'm going to be sharing also this idea of bilingualism and late talking and how you can facilitate both languages at the same time. There is a process, though, that will help you out with it. I use this idea of bilingual language learning for a couple reasons. Number one, the majority of the people who are following me have bilingual households. And number two, the language facilitation, the way that I help teach people understand it, is the same way that a lot of foreign language learning, second language learning happens, because the only way that that second language really becomes integrated and not just these lists that you've memorized in class, or the words that you've heard grandma say occasionally, or even the prayers or things that you learned, that you memorized as a kid, how to integrate those things into a real language that you can use, a second language. And these strategies work with kids who are chatterboxes in one language. And also, let's say you're one of those families who has facilitated a child from late talking to using one language consistently, and they're at that needs-based level. These strategies are going to help you get your child elevating through the levels of spoken language that I indicate in the workbook, helping you elevate up through the next level in both languages at the same time. So thank you so much for joining, everybody. And like I said, this is a Q&A. So again, I didn't talk about my graphics. My name is Marci Melzer, and I'm an intuitive speech and language pathologist from wavesofcommunication.com. And every week I do these live Q&A episodes so that you can come and learn more, expand your knowledge. It's all beyond just talking 2 to 3 hours a day with your kiddos. It's around mindset. It's around all the different things, the problems that happen when you live in a household with a late talking child. And this is a live Q&A episode like I do every Thursday. So what I've been doing, I kind of introduced it yesterday a little bit, and it was quite well received. I have my language facilitation inspiration cards here. So when I'm done talking about these 5 tips for the bilingual language facilitation and working with the workbook, we'll pull out the cards and I'll start answering questions for you that you have today. So hopefully the information that I bring to you today will help either the topics that I bring up, or the topics that other people bring up, because that's usually the best benefit of the Q&A. People learn from what happens, how I coach other parents. Okay. So, and also please like this video. If you like these Q&As and you like this topic, please like and share it with your friends. Okay, let's get started with the topics that we have today, where we're talking about this idea of bilingual language facilitation. And the first thing that we're going to do, the first tip that I have for you, is to realize, number one, which language is the late talker's first one, their home language, the one that they understand better, because there always is a first spoken language. They all start with nonverbal communication, crying, babies, and then one language emerges, and it usually is the language that they heard first when you pulled them out of the womb, and here they are out in the real world. What were you talking to them when you told them how much you love them, and when they were their fingers and toes were being counted, and you took them home and you cared for them in their very first days, weeks, months, years, right? That is their first language. And again, they've had the most experience. So let's say this late talker is older now and they're 2 years old, and you're living in a country where that first language that you spoke to them when they were teeny babies isn't maybe the language they're hearing as much, because they're spending a lot of time watching videos in other languages and things like that. Maybe they're spending time with a nanny who speaks a different language. That it changes as they get older, but the first language is the language that they heard first and that they have heard most from humans, because your late talker may have had tons of exposure to other languages via devices, but when it comes down to actually hearing people talking to them and around them, that is the number one language. And this is always the language that you have to springboard from when you're facilitating spoken language. You have to start from the nonverbal into the first spoken language, and then you can springboard from the first spoken language into other languages. And that is because neurologically, your brain learning to communicate non-verbally versus learning to communicate verbally is one sort of development that your brain has to learn. How does spoken language work? When I listen, I actually have to communicate by saying things with my mouth. That whole realization happens with the first spoken language. So if you have a late talker and you have a bilingual household, you always want to start with this first language. In fact, that is tip number 2 that we're going to move into right now. Tip number 2 on this topic is to concentrate on raising all the levels of the first language to 5 plus. You want to get all the levels of all the first language, concentrating on that to getting them to levels 5 and above. So this establishes, again, the mindset of, I am learning a language here. I am learning how to use spoken language. I have given up the fact that I can use my body, and I'm listening for words that people are saying, and I'm integrating them into my language, and I'm using them now to communicate. And this is what happens if you have a late talker. You're at level 5 when the late talker will start to say different words to different people in different languages. So they will say, hola to Grammy, and they will say, bye-bye to their friends, and hi, how you doing? Or hey, what's going on? And they'll use that kind of language with some people who speak that language, their home language, or the language that they speak to the late talker in. See, because again, it's all relating to, when we teach language in this way with language facilitation, it is specific to the connection with the person that you're communicating to, your communication partner. And if your communication partner is an English speaker, they're going to be talking in a certain way, using a certain language. And if they're a Spanish speaker or Hindi speaker or Tamil speaker or somebody else, Portuguese, whatever language, then it's a different way of thinking. And if you are bilingual, that when you're talking in that language, either one you choose, it's a different mindset. And so the late talker has to be prepared to make the shift. And understand connection well enough to understand that this is the Spanish speaking person, so I've got to pull out my Spanish for them. And this is the English speaking person, so I've got to pull out my English for them. It's way beyond learning it's actually way before learning what the words are, is learning what language are we speaking here? What's going on at this time? And this is why you have to concentrate on that first language first. Now, let's talk about for a second, when I talk about these levels, what am I talking about when I talk about these levels? And in my workbook, we're talking about here, let's talk about what it is. It is the 11-week language facilitation journey to speech I'm talking about right now. You can access this workbook in the description box below. But what I've done in this workbook is I've established, because people like these level charts where you can see what level is my child and what level am I and what level, what level, what level. And it's okay to have these level charts, because with language facilitation, what we're always looking for is progress. We don't have a specific goal in mind when my child says X amount of words or when my child follows so many commands, like they do in the evidence-based, the numbers, the game. This is different. This is a whole different game, right? We are empowering and equipping these children, no matter how old they are. I've got 18-year-old children or lay talkers that are in the program that their parents are working with them to try to elevate to the next level, because you never stop. Because once your child gets to 50 words or 200 words or 500 words or whatever, you stop counting words, because it doesn't matter how many. There's plenty of words. What you care about is how your child is using them. And that's when you start to be, well, they're not answering questions or they're not doing these other things. And again, instead of focusing on those skills, we are focusing on teaching the language from the bottom up, from the inside out, the language that they need to be communicating with the different people in their life. And in order to get to that stage where I understand that you speak a different language than this person, and now I've got to switch, because that requires a lot from any speaker to change their way of thinking to adapt to their environment. That's why you want a bilingual, that's why you're helping co-create a bilingual experience for your lay talker. You want them to be capable everywhere they go communicating, and it starts with your family. You want them to be capable and successful communicating with grandma and the nanny and mom and dad and their teachers at school, wherever you live. If you normally don't speak that language and you live somewhere else, that's the whole point here. It's not about the outcome of my kid's a bilingual kid. This is about facilitating that. That's what we teach on the Waves of Communication channel, just in case anybody got that out of whack. When we talk about these levels, you're constantly working to increase the level by level by level, and the levels go up and down. It's not a linear process because they all work together. And we talk about 4 levels here because it's not just about how many words your child is saying or how many things they're starting to understand. It's how well are they connected to you? Do they even understand that you are speaking a different language, right? We've got to have those levels first, and their level of motivation to try all of that. And then your level of motivation to allow it, to facilitate it instead of create it. Like, you're not making these kids talk. You are creating the opportunities for them to develop their spoken language. And you have to move up through the levels to do that, no matter what we're trying to facilitate here. So let's take a look at one of these level charts. This is the one in Spanish, by the way. So we know, everybody knows the Spanish level is available, and that's why these level charts are nice. So if you have a Spanish-speaking person in your household, you can see how these levels will help them understand. You don't have to show them this video. They don't have to understand my lecture about it, but you have to help them understand that they're just working on it, helping you increase these levels of interest in talking. And what that level is in English is down here. Let me see if I can find the English one fast. This is it. So where the child is actually trying, where their functional level of spoken language expression has to be way up here at level 5, where they are, really exploring and trying to use language. They understand they're connected with everybody and see what's going on. And the reason that they can do it is because they're connected. When we look at this one, this is the connection with the language facilitator. When we're at level 5, this language facilitator is happy to listen, happy to learn more. Oh, I already know that in English. Now I can learn it in Spanish. And why would I want to learn it in Spanish? Because grandma now I can share this concept with grandma. And it's not just a mom and me experience. I can share it with grandma too, or the nanny, or whoever speaks Spanish in your household. The one is that's the second language, right? So when you facilitate the connection first, that increases the motivation with the late talker. So we always have to get to level 5 or above with connection and expression and understanding and all the other levels too that I showed you. And how do we do that, right? How do we motivate and get the child up to those levels? Those are the strategies that we're going to talk about in the workbook, and I'll talk about those again a little bit later. But let's move on a little bit more with these strategies so that you can see what's coming in and understanding. So, and I see a question coming in, so we've got a lot to do. Let's get back to the tips about bilingual language facilitation here. Tip number 3 for you about this process is to create opportunities functionally. That's what we're going to talk about right now using the workbook, to analyze the second language understanding. So now once the first language gets up, at least to level 5, where they're like, I know that, I know this, and I am trying to use it, and I'm not great at it, but I'm still really trying here to use that spoken language. That's when you start to analyze the second language. Now, in the second language, you're going to get all different levels. They're all going to be lower. They're all going to be lower. Let's pull up that level chart again. That connection level right here should stay high, because at level 5, they're interested, and I'm just as connected with grandma as I am to you because I'm excited and motivated and learning. But this other one, this level of functional spoken language expression, is going to be way down here in that second language, even though in the first language, they're way up here. They can label a bunch of stuff. They can request their needs. They can even tell you if they want the big one or the little one. You know, they're really, really trying to expand what they're talking about, because they want you to understand the details of their life. It's way beyond, I want a cookie. It's, I want 5 cookies, and I don't want the vanilla kind. I want the chocolate kind, and I don't want the broken ones. I want, you know what I mean? It gets details. The more language they learn and the more they're exposed to in the world as they grow, you know, literally spend time in the world, they get exposed to things. The more they spend on here watching whatever they watch, they're exposed to things that they want to experience again. I want to try that. I want to try that. That's level 5. Let's go. Let's try it, right? Now, in this second language, the second one that they don't know as well as they know the first one. Now, you've been facilitating the first one, and they're feeling pretty confident about that language. They're not great at it, and we're not judging them. We're allowing them to continue to improve, celebrating every little success as they go through these elevations. And if they dip below because they're in a bad mood, usually these functional language expression decreases when the connection decreases, and the connection decreases when the kids aren't feeling empowered. They're not feeling like, I know how to do this confidently, and they start to decrease in their effort to even try to use the language. Think about in your ever time that you were learning a second spoken language and somebody pressured you to use it before you were ready. You suddenly forgot everything you know. You forget it. You don't have access to it to use anymore. And that's because anxiety gets in the way of this idea of expanding. It's a whole different neurological process to expand spoken language into a different area. Now we're like building super highways in areas that we literally just hack through to get to this, you know, basic level of spoken language, and you're trying to build it beyond there, right? So what the strategy is, oops, I didn't even pull this down so you can see this, all of these levels. So you can see, remember, when they do, they go way low here. When they can't, they just start parroting because they don't understand it and they're just experiencing. You say, you know, that happens a lot when parents slipped into the habit of using both languages at the same time. And we're going to talk about that. You know, again, facilitating one language at a time is very important for the late talker's neurological development. If you want them to do it properly, you have to teach one language at a time. You can't teach Spanglish or Hindlish or Hindashlish or whatever you're trying to do. It has to be, and you're in your common spoken language, you may use a combination of that habitually because you understand both of those languages. But remember, your late talker does not. And as soon as you make your message more confusing by mixing stuff together, these efforts go down. They aren't able to process what you're getting. Their level of understanding and the other charts that we have going on decrease, and then they can't. All they revert back to is their nonverbal spoken language, nonverbal communication that was before even their first spoken language. They'll go back to their first spoken language, and then if that doesn't work, so the anxiety's too big, they'll go back to their nonverbal communication and bypass all of it to these level ones where they're just like, I don't know, and it's too much pressure. It's just they're overwhelmed. They can't handle it anymore, right? And so this is what you want to avoid whenever you're doing bilingual, or even, in one language, you're trying to get that first shift from nonverbal situations, communication. And the only way I know how to communicate this is by whacking you. Now I'm finding a way to use the speech to communicate that with you. Now grandma speaks a different language, and the only way I know how to communicate that is a language that she doesn't understand. I'm going to go back to whacking grandma. Okay? It decreases in the language based on the situation and the connection. All of these languages, all of these levels that we talk about, the connection and the understanding and the expression, it all works together in the workbook. And that's why you can't just focus on one area. It's a complex process. And that's why you have your workbook to help you create your data and stuff about it. Okay, let me put these things away so we can move forward into the next tip. If these are working for you, please again, like this video. Let me know how this goes. I know we're getting really into some deep dives now with the strategies that I'm sharing on these weekly Q&As, because it's way beyond just talking more. It's way beyond just teaching something. There's always something evolving. And then as I get your questions, we're tuning it in to your energy and what the things that you need. So, all right, let's see. We've got through tip number 2 to concentrate on the levels of the first language, and this establishes that mindset. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing, number 3, is where you're going to be creating opportunities to functionally analyze the second language understanding, speak exclusively in the second language, and use lots of visual aids to make sure you are understood. Okay, so in that second language, you are really digging in with this number 3 to slow your speech down, to get all the stuff that got your kid talking in the first language, that got them to shift from the nonverbal into the verbal. You're going to use to shift the kid from one language into the second language. That's what this tip is about, where you choose it's bath time, it's sleep time, it's meal time, we're going to play with this train, it's our car ride, all immersive in that language. And that's where we're going next, right? Is number 4. So each opportunity, you're going to be facilitating a unique language. I talked about this a little bit already. Always focus on one language at a time with full immersion into the activity, and hack through the language. If it's, let's say, you and your family have moved to a country, you live in India, and now you're moving to England or Australia or the United States, and everyone around you is speaking the language, and they sound very different. When you come to the United States and you live in Texas, or if you live in Canada, or if you live in the West or the East, English sounds different than it is if you live in UK or Australia, and even parts of Australia sound different as well. So in those environments, you as a family are immersion. You're there. You're surrounded by people saying y'all, and you didn't learn that in your language. You're adapting as a family to understand how it goes as an immersion experience. So you want to talk about, I heard a guy say, do y'all want to go? Y'all must mean the same as all of you. And they said it in one word. Isn't English funny? I mean, when you have people who speak, you think this is what you're thinking in your head, or that's what you discuss with those people. Late talkers also have these same thoughts about the words that they hear the first time in these immersion things. They hear apple is now manzana because here you are in the kitchen, chopping, and you're like, mira, mami, tengo una manzana. And, you're holding it, and you said mommy, and that means mommy has a apple. Mommy's holding an apple. Mommy is an apple right here. And you can see that and understand it at the same time. So, oh, manzana. And then you think in your head for a minute, manzana means apple. Manzana's a long word. Manzana. Can I say manzana? Manzana. You stop, you forget talking about what the chopping and the pie or whatever they were cooking because you get distracted in your head a little bit by thinking about how does that word sound, and can I even say that word, and is it a word I can use, and all of that stuff. And that's why immersion into one language is important, and consistently doing that where every single day you have immersion. Again, if your child's already in that other first language, if they're at level 5 for all their levels in the first language, then you can pull out a Spanish meal and immersion in it, and just give a lot of visual cues just to make sure that late talker completely understands what you're talking about. And when you do that, then they will, oh, that's how you say it in Spanish. That's how you say it in English, because that's what you do when you're out in the world and you're at the grocery store and they say, do y'all want anything more? And you say, use that y'all word again. This must be a common thing that people say. You put those things together. And that's how you get good or better. Improve. That's how you get better. That's how you improve your spoken languages, by this realization, this is how you do it, other people's examples, and then you move into using it and trying it for yourself. And it doesn't matter if it's the first language that you're shifting from behaviors, pointing, dragging, showing on a device, whatever, into speech, or one kind of spoken language into another spoken language. You're facilitating a shift. You're facilitating a shift, a conscious shift. When I talk to you in Spanish, I want you to talk to me in Spanish. And you are facilitating that mindset shift so that when grandma shows up and she starts speaking Spanish, that late talker knows it's time to switch into Spanish. Okay. But we don't do it just whenever, because we do it when it's appropriate, when it's time to turn on the Spanish brain, and then the Spanish brain can work. Or it's time to turn off the Spanish brain and turn on the English brain, and the English brain can work, because they work a little bit differently. And if you want them to work at their most efficiently, let them work by themselves. Keep it simple, keep it straightforward in that language, and make your language super easy to understand with a lot of visual aids, because they don't understand the language. They need you to say, get your phone and swipe the thing, use a lot of visual aids with words that they know. They know they're at level 5 in that other language. They have a ton of vocabulary that they already know. They just don't know how to use it well. So now you're working on using both of those languages better. They don't use any of them well, but simultaneously, you're helping these late talkers develop both of these languages at the same time. And this is how you do it, this level 4 tip. That's what's so important, okay? All right. Woo, a lot of content in this. Let's move forward into tip number 5. Super important tip right here is to use, this is what really motivates, right? This is where the fun comes in, because there always has to be fun to motivate that learning. Now, connection always motivates learning too. Just being the grandma who speaks the other language facilitates spoken language interest and motivation to learn it. So, love and money, as my friend Harry Schneider always said. So for me, it's fun, because little kids don't go with money, because what things motivate you to learn a new language? Either you find someone you love or you have to go somewhere to earn a job. Those things will highly motivate you to learn a second foreign language, right? Evolve out of your comfort zone in your language that you love or money. And the thing with late talkers is it's connection and fun. So you need to find the things that make each language fun. And those are the cultural things, right? So it's grandma that makes it fun because why? What does grandma do? Grandma does the old school things that they used to do in the old language, the cultural, the stories, the prayers, all the things that you know that motivate you. Why do you want this late talker to learn this language? What is the motivation behind it? Not just so that they'll be successful talking to grandma and it'll make grandma happy. Deep down inside, it's because of that connection. And the way you facilitate more success for your child in the future is the same. They have more people they can love now because they speak the language. They have more places they can earn money, have fun, and get good experiences now because they speak the spoken language of the people who are doing that fun stuff around them. And they are learning about why is this fun? Because it tastes different, because it sounds different, because it looks different, and it's interesting, and it's novel, and it's exciting. And it's exciting to you because you've got some skin in the game. Literally, it's your culture, it's your roots, it's your energy, it's your previous programming in your life. Centuries old, these cultures that you have in the prayers and the things that are so important to you, right? And even if these things aren't that important to you, there are familial things that are important. If you're not impressed by the culture, you're impressed by what grandpa does or what grandma does or these other people that you are motivated to be like. And again, we're motivating these late talkers to elevate their skills, to grow, to turn into adults, because we aren't raising kids, we're raising adults to be self-sufficient and giving and connected with the world. And that's how they're successful, right? So that's it. Use culturally different opportunities for each language. Do English stuff if you're speaking English, or Australian stuff, or your English, things instead of American things. And if you're in America, do Bostonian things, or Texan things, or Californian things, or Chicagoan things. Do things that are like the culture of the environment around you. It'll motivate you to learn about it. Plus, you'll get tons of opportunities to learn about that culture and decide. You'll integrate all of that because that's how we learn. That's why we get multicultural, is to enhance our lives, connect us with other people, and teach us to connect with everyone else. So in 2022, we've got the year of connection here, you guys. We are connecting all over the world with language facilitators by creating this workbook situation where you can help anybody. If they don't speak English and they can't understand these videos, you can share this information with them. And that's why I'm starting to share these workbooks in different languages around the world. But right now they're available in English all over everywhere. And I just wanted to share something really special that happened the other day. So I have a follower, Haley, who lives in Australia, and her son, Charlie, is very excited listening to me. So what I want to do here is share with you a little language facilitation experience. So I often evaluate videos. When parents send me videos, because I don't see the kids, I don't see your family, I'm not there across the world, wherever you live. When people send me videos, I analyze what's going on, and then I give them ideas about what they've been doing because I see it in the video, and I tell them how they can elevate and how they can move up. And so I got a really fun video that I just want to share with you. Let me pop it over here. This is little Charlie, and Charlie loves language facilitation time. He loves language facilitation Q&A because he loves listening to me. Now watch this.
Hi, Marci. Hi. Hi, Marci.
My name is Marci Melzer, and I'm an intuitive speech and language.
Wow. You love Marci.
So, what an amazing video. First of all, it makes me a little teary to think about it because here's a little kiddo who's so excited. And first of all, I just got to say, hey, Charlie, how you doing? I'm so glad to see you. And I got to give him a little chime because Charlie likes the chime. And just, hey, I want to just tell you what a great job trying to talk. So in that video, you could see that Charlie was clearly excited both by the chime and by me saying, hello. You know, he really liked that presence or whatever it is that I bring to the screen was really appealing to that little guy. Now, it doesn't matter what your late talker is excited about. It just was exciting for me that he was excited about me, but it could be whatever they see. You see them physically get excited. Charlie is a late talker. He's not using speech readily yet, but he couldn't help himself but express his excitement about listening to the chime and about hearing me say hello, you know, whatever. All of a sudden, he just couldn't help himself. So the speech comes out in his jumping and waving, and he's just couldn't help it. Now, his mom could perceive, Haley could see that, wow, this kiddo really likes this, whatever's on the screen. She could tell that he liked the chime. She could tell that he liked listening to me talk. Now, how does she know that? Because she's connected with him. What did she do? She started talking about it. Wow. First of all, she noticed it. She couldn't help but notice how connected Charlie was with the screen. And then she also remembered in her comments that he is attracted to a lot of screens. And so it's not surprising that he found something on a screen that was interesting to him because that's his habit. That's what he likes to do. And so his mom immediately started talking about what it is. That's Marci. Well, first of all, she started to put words in his mouth. She said, hi, Marci, because that's what, you know, she could perceive that he wanted to say when he was jumping out and laughing. He saw me as his friend he wanted to connect to, and he wanted to try. He wanted to do it again. I can show it again. Let me put it over here again so you can see while I talk about it, and we can just look at it over and over again. So yeah, I'll just turn off so you can see. Yeah. So right here, I didn't say anything yet. He's excited about the chime. He really wanted to do the chime. Let's look again. Now I started talking.
Hi, Marci.
And he waved. So he waved a little with his hand. And his mom saw the wave and understood the communication as, hi, Marci, you're my friend. I want to see you. He's super happy that he's looking at me. He's looking at my face. He wants me to talk. He's listening to the words I'm saying. He might not understand everything I'm saying, but he understands enough that it's interesting, somehow interesting to him, right? So let's watch a little bit more. Now he's looking at mom because mom is talking about it. So now mom she's interpreting because she knows Charlie doesn't understand everything I'm saying. She is creating an experience here right now to just talk about what's happening. Listen.
Hi, Marci.
Is Marci Melzer, and I'm an intuitive speech and language.
Wow.
Now, in this moment, I would have, this mom doesn't know what to say. First of all, she probably was surprised by, wow, this kid really likes Marci. I don't know why this, whatever. And she was surprised, tickled by it enough to send me the video, obviously. But see, what happens here is that she doesn't know why. She doesn't know why he's excited. And she's also not thinking about why he's excited. She's just thinking he is excited. He is excited. Hi, Marci, you're excited. You could say hi, Marci, when you're excited, but she's not digging in her own mind or Charlie's mind deeper about why he could be understanding, why he likes to hear me. And immediately your mind goes to the chime, right? So the chime called his attention, and then whatever I do or say or whatever, he enjoys. And I think the other thing is because mom has been talking about me. So watch what happens now.
Oh.
Right. So she was talking about me and she's like, there's Marci. Hi, Marci. The common word in her language models is Marci. Hi, Marci. There's Marci. Oh, wow. There's Marci. Hi, Marci. Right. And so what does he say? He's trying to say Marci. Why? Because he agrees with her. Yep. There she is. There is Marci right there on the screen. We agree. Let's watch the end. Now he turns away from me. Look, he's not looking at me anymore. He doesn't care so much about me. He got what he wanted, his initial thing. Now, I know that this little guy is heading over to the couch to sit down and settle in to listen to me because I saw the next video that's coming. But the thing is, he's so excited, so intuitively, right? We're analyzing this kiddo's communication. He's so excited by watching me on this video. It comes out of him physically. Then when mom starts talking, he stops the jumping. You don't see it anymore. He stops, turns to her, listens to her talking about, yep, you're right. That's Marci. And you like Marci. So because it came out into the world, because she was saying, you like it, it came out. Here you go. Right. And he's like, thank you. I'll take that. I'll take it and understand it and use it. And it's not the first time because the last time, as soon as she started talking about it, he paired it. He jumped right in to say, Marci, yes, I agree with you. Now, when we look at these levels of functional expression, that's here. That's a level 3 where he's hearing things that he wants to hear. You know, he likes it. He agrees with it, but it's not a real functional thing that he can use because he's thinking about, now I want to go sit and listen to Marci, or she played the chime. That was my favorite part. Like, I didn't hear that at all. That would have connected him even more to mom because she and I and anybody watching could see from his physical reaction, his physical communication, that the chime was the part that he got really excited about it. And he would like for me to play more chimes, which is why I just did it for him. And he's kind of going to wait to see what's Marci going to do because he's a screen kid and he's used to waiting until something happens on the screen. That's his comfort zone behavior. And so when we look at the connection with the language facilitator, right? Who was this kid connecting with me? Who was this kid connecting with? With me, he was way up here. As soon as I made the ching, he was happy. He was learning. What else is she going to do? What else is she going to do? I started going blah, 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 blah. I'm Marci from wavesofcommunication.com. Not interesting to him, but mom was interesting. And he was here, at least in this level. Wow, comfort zone. I know this. I like this. Let's sit down. And he kind of slid back down here into comfort zone where I'll listen and learn. I might get something good out of this, but I'm attentive. I'm paying attention. He didn't run away like from the screen, like he went to go settle down and get in. But you could see if I was, if it had changed or if it got boring or if it droned on, then and this is what happens to him. He says more to his mom. He starts saying more, and the video's still going on. But what he wants more of is the chime, right? He wants to hear again the chime. He doesn't want to hear Marci talking, because that's the part he liked. And so then his connection went down again. He's going to start to be distracted. What else can I play with? What else can I do? Or create it again, right? That testing and communication. So now you see how, whoops, this is not what I wanted to do. Nope. Sorry about that. So when we talk about the functional expression and the connection and the understanding, that's how all these things go together, everybody, okay? So now you can see a little bit about how when you're analyzing this spoken language and you're getting started with your plan and the kind of language you need to be providing for the kids. If you keep just giving them things that you hope they will say, they'll stay down at that lower level and they'll imitate those things that you're going to say, but they won't learn how to use them. They won't evolve up higher into it. And so, like I said, in this spoken language situation, I would have said something like, there's Marci. You see Marci. Marci is your friend. You like it best when she does the chime. When she talks, it's not as interesting, because I could see from his behavior. That's what I could see. And that's what I know he's thinking about. And that's what I would want to say, instead of, wow, there's Marci. Hi, Marci. Marci, 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 Marci. And I'm going to say Marci a lot more time. And what did she get? She got Marci. Right? Now, that's exciting because it's something, right? Versus zero, versus, jumping and flapping. That one word attempt is really nice, but it's not going to get you very far without extra models, because how you get the kids to elevate them is you bring them up by providing more than they need. Right? When we talk about how do you elevate the kids to get up these levels, is that you tune in, connect with them, tune into what they're thinking about, and give them that language. Even if you don't believe they can understand it. Remember, just like I said before, you hack through the language that you don't understand, because between your visual aids and the language you do know, they will get it. And when they get it wrong, you say, you're trying. You were trying to say this, and I say it the right way. And then you move on. You don't correct it. You're in the language situation, and they're going to hear you using the phrases they want because you're talking about the same things. Marci on the screen using bells, not Marci's my friend, say hi, right? It's not appropriate. You're watching a screen. It's a visual. You can talk about what you learn from the screen, but interacting with it, is that really what you want? You really want your kiddo to be interacting with humans. So get out and practice with humans. Hi, how you doing? Okay. Think about these opportunities that you have that you're creating. Okay. Whew. Let's see. We've got some questions coming in. I just want to block this one. It's so nice to see that I'm getting enough views that people come on to try to scam on my site. It's kind of a nice. All right, let's see. We've got a question here. If your late talker is sick with a cold and seeks comfort more than learning, should we still facilitate the language or give them time to feel better, then resume the learning activities? What a great question. And actually, what I recommend is that every situation requires language. So if you have a late talker who's not well, or if you are not well, I just had this situation happen. Actually, Haley was telling me about it, that she just had an injury because she had a fall, and so she couldn't get around. There's a lot of these sort of excuses where we get to stop, or we stop facilitating language when things get hard, or when things get super fun, or when we have a vacation, or when I started a new job, or when more things come into our lives that we should stop facilitating language. The answer is you never stop facilitating language. You just shift the topic of your language facilitation, because we need to learn spoken language around everything. Now, we're not going to keep learning about fun stuff, and the spoken language of the fun stuff is not appropriate when he's not feeling good. Nobody wants to have you show up in their sick bed and start going, yeah, let's have fun and have nobody wants that. It's about connection first. And so what I would do in a case where either your late talker or you are not feeling well is, number one, you talk about the situation. It's not normal. Today is not a normal day. We got a problem. I got a headache. You got a cold. We got a house fire. Who knows? There are days, every day is different, right? Every day has opportunities to learn how to talk about something new. And don't discredit your late talker's ability to do that. Help them understand what's going on in their world using spoken language. So you're just shifting. You're not stopping. In fact, you might do more. You might facilitate more spoken language when your kid is not well than you do when they're running around chasing every shiny object around them. But you're going to facilitate the language about the unwellness, about the illness. Like you're going to talk about their symptoms and you're going to talk about your readiness and about your remedies. Oh, you've got a fever, so I'm going to put this cold cloth on your head, or we're going to go sit in the shower. You're feeling very whatever. Your tummy's upset, so I'm going to give you this popsicle and it's going to help your tummy feel better. This is the language facilitation that's necessary and, like I said, even more impactful. If you've got a trauma or a situation, somebody gets hurt, somebody dies, for God's sakes, who knows what's going on? These days, a lot of kids are getting sick, and or not getting sick, or they're seeing other people getting sick. This is how you use these situations. I would double down on language facilitation, because in these situations where your world is upside down and they don't understand what's going on, why do I feel like this? Why am I throwing up? Why can't I eat the ice cream? Every other time I eat ice cream, it's nice. Now I eat it and I throw up. Is ice cream bad for me? I mean, think about all that stuff that goes through your head when your body is revolting on you, right? This lay talker needs you to dig in and talk about what's happening to them, just as the same way as they need you to dig in and talk about what's happening to them when they're going to school or they're going to a party or you want them to tie their shoes. Okay. It's just another experience in life, these unwell situations. So I'm super glad you asked this question, because this is the time to do more. It's just not the same. And your flexibility. We talked on the channel over and over again about how flexibility is so important right now. So important right now. Because with the planets going on, we got volcanoes erupting in the Pacific. We got governments trying to change things. We've got people who are confused about the virus and all that stuff. We got a lot of confusion going on right now. Flexibility and following the truth is going to help you. And again, the truth about your situation is this little guy, you're right. He can't do any work right now. He needs your comfort. He needs your connection. He needs your explanation. He needs your understanding to the point he can tolerate it. But if he's exhausted, he's got a fever and he can't handle it, then you got to leave him alone and let him heal. And tell him, I know you need time to be alone and heal right now. I will come back and check on you. Initiate and just put that healing out there as something that you are facilitating, right? So again, it's time. Every time is time to facilitate spoken language. Okay, here's another question coming in. Got just about enough time for the last one. So grateful for all your work. Thank you so much, Caroline. I'm very grateful for all of you watching. Just because I'm out here talking about this stuff, it doesn't help anything unless it lands somewhere. So I really, really appreciate all of you giving me your time and energy to listen. So thank you. And thank you for your question, everybody who participates, because that helps other people too. All right, my question is, what recommendations do you have for oral motor skills? My son has issues with the M sound, but not harder sounds like Z and J. All right, so I'm glad that you mentioned oral motor skills. I am no oral motor skills. There's no reason to train your mouth, because it is your brain that needs to work. And that's why they talk about oral motor. There's so much research to show that moving your mouth exclusively does not facilitate speech, because there are multiple processes going on neurologically. It's not just what happens with the mouth. Like we've talked about, even understanding the spoken language. You're even thinking about, how does the word manzana differ from the word apple? You have to go through that process of distraction before you can actually integrate the word manzana into your Spanglish that turns into Spanish, okay? So with sound development, it is the same. It's an evolutionary process. And the best way to give examples to help kids evolve into process. So if he can say harder sounds like Z and J, that kind of business, but he's not saying there could be an issue with how he hears it and how he's experienced it as he learned the language. And so the only way that you improve these skills functionally to have them like be consistent in your real speech is to practice them in speech. So I suggest, and I had another mom who really corrected multiple different what they call phonological processes, where kids were just really saying all the words wrong, leaving off all the ends of all the words, leaving off all the beginnings of all the words, chopping all the syllables out of words. A lot of late talkers will pick up these habits of talking, which is what they're called, phonological processes, and they stay in that habit and they'll drop all the words just like accents do. When you live in Boston, you don't say R, right? So that's or England, right? Not the same way you say it in other places. And it's habit. Accents are habits of talking. Speech sounds are the habits of talking, how your speech sounds. Everybody sounds a little different based on their experience of who they were listening to and who they were trying to talk like. So that's what we're just trying to do, is establish you are the good, clear speaker that you want the late talker to try to talk like. And so you choose topics, choose books, choose characters, choose themes that surround those words, more and mighty, and think about all that. In fact, in the workbook, this is what I would do. This is a big hack in the workbook that you can learn. In the workbook, I have this page that talks about improving cognitive skills through facilitating all these different language concepts, analyzing, applying, comparing, describing, developing, because there's way more reasons that we use language than just to request things and label them, right? Most of the reason that late talkers learn speech, the first speech, is to just get the things that they want or tell people that they don't want them. And that's because that's how it's taught to them. But when you are using language that analyzes, that asks why, that answers why, that shows you how to apply knowledge that shows you how to examine, that shows you how to infer, interpret, that shows you how to make decisions. Which one? What do you want? This one is this, and this one is that. I like this because of this, and I like that because of that. This is how you're going to massively expand language beyond requests. Think about all the activities that you can do to use these cognitive language concepts. And that's how functional language improves, to the point where you're like, this kid knows what he's talking about because he's identifying, exploring, examining, evaluating, all that stuff. And so if you're working on sounds, right, then you choose concepts that use these cognitive language things, aspects, right, that are embedded with the sounds that you want to practice. M words, J words, Z words, blends, final consonants, whatever. Because when you're engaging in real conversation, you're modeling that stuff. And when you see language that isn't accurate, then you can work on it specifically. But the late talker has to be motivated. Speech sound improvement doesn't happen until you're at connection level 6 or 7. Okay? Just, if they're like, I don't want to practice those words, or I'll sit and listen to you say them. I'll sit and listen to you, what all that stuff over and over again. That's going to get here. You don't get speech sound like, I want to improve my speech so it's clearer for everybody to understand, until you get up here. Okay, way high. And the way you do that is by motivating the late talker through getting their brain wrapped around the concepts. Why am I talking in the first place? Why is it important for me to try harder? Because that's what it takes for a late talker to get to the point where everybody can understand their speech. Because before they were just using and grabbing you around. And now you want them to be the valedictorian. Okay, so that's how we do that. Caroline, you get through those levels. Whoops, let me get over here so I can get this straight. And I've got to get going because I've got to go on to do my regular meeting with my clients. So Thank you, everybody. What a great Q&A session. Lots and lots of information on this one. As I said before, please like this video and share it with your friends. There's lots of information on the website. My name is Marci Melzer, and wavesofcommunication.com is where you're going to go learn about everything language facilitation. You can order the workbooks. You can get coaching. You can get the online course. You can get them in Spanish now. Working on Hindi coming out next. But it takes a little time for me to get these things prepared for you. Thank you so much for being patient with me. Thank you so much for joining me again, everybody. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye, Charlie. See you the next time. And bye for now, everybody.